From Virat Kohli's MCG6 against Pakistan to Bumrah's stump-destroying Yorker to Ollie Pope. Incredible things happen on the cricket ground. We also get iconic lines off it, like Siraj saying, "I only believe in Jesse Bye." There are so many incredible moments that cricket fans just never forget. And now you can wear them on your chest. Free Hit Gear has launched a line of amazing t-shirts and hoodie designs. Passionate fans in India can order through their website, freehitgear.com, while fans abroad can use Free Hit Gear on the Etsy store to have items delivered to them. Order now with the code GOODAREAS, all one word, to get a limited time 15% discount, and you can wear a t-shirt like this one right here.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Good Areas Live. I'm Behram Qazi, who you can find at DefMango on Twitter. And with me, as always, is Jarrod Kimber, who you can find literally anywhere. And yeah, we've got a lot of people in the comment section. Krunk, Saad Ali, Pranay Ghosh, Dhruv Chipalkati, Murugesan, Vivekanandan. Wow, guys, you're really testing me today. Super Devil, Soham Chatterjee, and QMS. What a game! We've had Jarrod Kimber. Afghanistan, who were playing their first ever Champions Trophy, have won their first ever Champions Trophy fixture, defeating England in Lahore by 8 runs and knocking them out of the Champions Trophy. This is huge.
Yes, I mean, the second bit's probably less surprising than the first bit, but yes. Look, you knew I was very, very keen on them coming into this tournament, and nothing really changed my mind on that all the way through, except for briefly when they were facing Mark Wood, and they did look a little bit terrified. Even the South Africa game, I kind of expected them to lose that, if we're being honest.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, one of these sides is used to playing a lot of 50-over cricket, and like even Gulbadine knows what his role is in this side. And I was watching Jamie Smith going, does this guy even know what he's supposed to be doing out there? Because it doesn't look like it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I have renamed him actually to Gulbisbadeen or Gulbisdeen Naib, because he's practically playing that role in this team, isn't he? But it was a spectacular game. Afghanistan, they are a bat-first team, Jarrod. And the minute they got more than 300 runs on the board, I was like, okay, they're probably 1 or 2 good spells of bowling away from actually sealing this win. And they defeated England in the ODI World Cup as well. So they've kind of got the wood over them.
Yeah. I think they match up quite well against England because they play spin well. So Adil Rashid kind of struggles a little bit more against them at times. And then they have so many spin options. And the spinners didn't bowl brilliantly today, but I think they made England not panic, but think about the innings slightly differently. I don't know about you, but I was very surprised the way England started, of just like defending balls over and over again. That looked like a really good batting wicket to me. And I was like, is this England? Like, you know, I saw someone in the comment going, so Bazball doesn't work in flat conditions anymore. They weren't trying to Bazball, right? They looked so confused, England. And I think they were terrified of losing too many wickets before the spinners came on. And so in the end, they were behind the game before the spinners came on anyway, right?
They were ahead of the game in between, though, when that partnership between Root and Butler was ongoing. At that point, I was like, okay, Dew is, or has arrived. And now there are not a lot of runs left on the table. And if these guys just kind of stretch it till over 40, England will be heavy favorites. But they didn't stretch it till over 40. Butler got out. And then even though Root played a worldie, I feel like, they were always playing catch up. We also have a super chat by Sid Satya. If you could bring that up, please. Varun, he asks, does Afghanistan have a problem finishing off games? I feel like they keep letting the other team back into the game. So just from my end over here, I actually thought that this might be one of those games where Afghanistan dropped 10,000 catches. And they did drop 2, right? They dropped Duckett early on, and that was a dolly. Hashmat dropped that one. And then Rashid Khan dropped a tough chance towards the end. And I was like, oh my God. Please let this not be another one of those games where they hash it up in the field and that's why they lose. But they did hold their nerve, and it was very nervy towards the end, wasn't it, Jarrod?
They hopefully they don't Hashmatullah it up towards the end.
Yeah.
They're not a very good death bowling side. Even when they had Naveen, who's probably a better bowler than the other guys in that position, they've never been a very good death bowling side. There was Dew as well, I think is also worth saying. And they're not a very highly skilled fielding side. So, some of those mistakes, I think if you go back and have a look at them in the field, were probably just the ball was a little bit wet and they're not very skillful to begin with.
But yeah, they're not as good towards the end of the game as other sides because they don't really have a lockdown option for themselves, which is quite often when the conditions are in their favor, while they'll go with the spinners, right? Like I think their death record probably looks better than it should because of the amount of times that Rashid Khan has had to bowl there or Muhammad Nabi has got away with it. So yeah, they're certainly very, very different from that perspective.
It's interesting, right? Because the Lahore conditions almost always have dew in the evening, right? And Afghanistan are a bat first team, so they know that they need to score more runs up top to actually make a fist of it. But they're so confident defending totals, especially like England, we knew could potentially crumble or kind of mess this up. But like you said, this was a different kind of England chase. And I mean, credit to Afghanistan to defend that despite the dew in the air or on the ground. So yeah, I feel like this was the sort of game that gives you hope that, as far as sides play to their strengths, they can overcome the conditions.
Yeah, I think this is just how they play. And this is why I've been saying for a while that every other team being so obsessed with batting second gives a team like Afghanistan a huge advantage because Afghanistan can basically go into a vast majority of their games knowing that they are going to do what they want, which is bat first, hopefully make somewhere around par, and then defend it with their bowling. And that's the way that Afghanistan wanted to play, and that's the way that England wanted to play, right? Like both of these teams got what they wanted at the toss. But the problem for England is that, I mean, you're right, they had that very good partnership, but I kind of felt that Duckett and Root had to win the game kind of on their own. And once that didn't happen, it was always going to be at the very best of slog. I think the I think the dew brought them back into it a little bit. And as you said, some of the fielding and everything else, and probably the fact that their spinners didn't actually bowl that well, which is it is a part of it.
I mean, England had some injury issues as well. Mark Wood was injured. Even Livingston had some knee issue. So, I mean, those things were also there. But when you think about it, right, if I look at England's campaign this far, I know it's only been, 2 games, but they've been like 2.5 performers. Duckett and Root have scored like 390 odd runs. Duckett 165 versus Australia, then 38 today. Root 68 versus Australia, and then a classy 120 today. And that's it. Capiche? Like, there have been no other performers with the bat. And with the ball, yes, I loved Jofra up front today. With the new ball, he was quick. He rattled some of those opening or top order Afghan batters. And, he had 3 wickets in no time. But then towards the death, he went for plenty as well, which is why I say 2.5 performers. He also dropped that catch versus Australia, if you remember.
Yeah. No, I mean, you look at their batting, it won't be talked about much now because everyone will be talking about whether Joss Buttler should be fired or, whatever, all these different things. But my God, Phil Salt played one of the worst shots I've ever seen, right? Then who did they have at number 3? Jamie Smith came in and I don't know what they've told him to do, but he hasn't played a lot of white ball cricket. He doesn't seem to understand what his job is in the side. And he was just blocking the ball for ages there, like completely confused in which way to go. So, you put yourself in a situation like that. And then, as you said, then you have Duckett and Root. They were like the game, I thought, at times. And the same with Jofra with the ball. Jofra and Adil Rashid with the ball are the other side of it, right? Like, it's such a thin side when you really go through this team. It's so thin at the moment. And they look like a team who doesn't really understand how to play ODI cricket, right? Yeah. Because they don't play ODI cricket. And they're going up against a team who is one-dimensional in some ways, but they know that dimension. Whereas England is like, think back to how England played against India and now come to the Champions Trophy. They're not even playing the same cricket they played a week and a half ago, Behram. Right?
That is true. Yeah, spot on. And I mean, look, Jofra, I do feel for him because he'll be thinking right now that, I dropped that catch in the previous game and Australia got away with it. And today, despite taking 3 wickets, he kind of, cocked it up towards the end of his spell. And he should have never gone for 64 runs. And then you got 2 batters who were performing. So England have so many holes of their own that I feel at this point, there are 2 questions, right? One is, was Matthew Mott the problem like ever? Right? and does Joss Buttler retain his place as this limited overs team captain?
Did Matthew Mott just got picked up by one of the IPL sides? Was it?
He might have.
Yeah, I think he might have got another. I think he got a job today anyway. I don't know where the job was, but again, it flashed up on my phone, but it was during the game, so I didn't take a massive look at it. I'm sure someone will come up with it in the comments. But we knew Matthew Mott wasn't the problem. Having said that, and not having a go at Matthew Mott or anything, I'm not sure that Matthew Mott was a solution either, right? Like, a assistant head coach of the Delhi Capitals, so quite interesting there. Look, I think it's possible at some stage. They were just going nowhere before, right? And at least if you have a look at what McCullum has tried, he tried to bazball it against against India, and that didn't work. He could have just kept pushing that Behram, and he's like, no, okay, that's not right. Now we're going to play this way, right? The problem is that his team's not really quite ready for either of those methods at the moment. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, I'll be interested to know what you think about this. From a Pakistani point of view, the way I was looking at this is India doesn't have Bumrah and doesn't need to pick, Siraj and Australia doesn't have that. And you're still like, both of those teams could possibly win. India should win, and Australia should probably still in the top 3 or 4 sides, right?
Yeah. You
look at England and you're like, one injury to them and you're like, there's nothing left, right? There's not, as you said, it's thin. It's the thinness. And that's the thing with Pakistan as well. Like when Pakistan lost an opening batter, I think we all went, oh, that's a bit of a shame. And then you see it play out and you're like, oh no, that's 10 times worse than we thought it was going to be, right? And the one thing I would say in England's favor is that they have an injured bowler in each one of these games with a thin, but on top of that, they have a thin bowling lineup, right? So if Afghanistan lost a frontline bowler, Gulbadine would find a way and someone else would bowl more finger spin and we'd get, do you know what I mean? We'd get through. Yeah. Is it Ramachar? No, who's it? They've got a backup spinner that they sometimes use in the top order anyway, I think. Right? Like on bad occasions, we'll slip a couple of overs in.
Hashmat. I'm pretty sure it's Hashmatullah Omarzai.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah. You might be right. Yeah. And then you look at England and you're just like, so who are we going to bowl to death? Well, Livingston's off the field. Wood's off the field. Joe Root, do you want to come and bowl at the death? Like, that's kind of... That tells you everything about where that side is at the moment. There's just, on top of not being very good and not having a plan, they've actually had a really bad run of injuries because Wood got injured in one game and Bryden Cast got injured in the other. But other sides, I just feel, other good sides would have found a way. Aiden Markram would have stood up, right? Or Matthew Short would have bowled ball. Like, it just feels with England, there was almost nothing left of them on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree that they aren't the sort of team which solves a lot of problems, when they're hit with adversity. It really takes them down. But quite honestly, like they lost Jacob Bethel before the tournament, and I don't think that was a big one.
No.
And Bryden Cast as well. I felt Jamie Overton did better than Cast, but losing Wood completely paralyzes them.
But the problem with Cast was that I think that was a big reason why Australia got back in that game. Because if you look, even before the Dew was going, wasn't he going at about 8-9 runs and over? He was clearly hobbling around. I put my bet on Australia in that game based on the fact that he was hobbling, right? Like, I was just like, I'm not even sure he'll bowl out of his overs. And in the end, he probably shouldn't have bowled as many as he did, right? So, and then to go to Jay Viz's question here, and this is really interesting based on what you've just said about Cast. 2027 World Cup, right? Duckett, yes?
Yeah. Duckett would probably go to that World Cup for sure. Harry Brook, it's a South African World Cup, right? It's in South Africa, so he should do well in theory over there.
Is it in South Africa?
Yes, 2027 ODI World Cup is in South Africa.
You say it won't turn an aisle. Did you watch much of the SA20?
Oh, well, there's also that, and global warming is changing South African surfaces, but I would still have Duckett and Harry Brook in there. And I mean, look, how old is Jos Buttler?
He's late 30s now, isn't he?
Is he late 30s? So
I mean, if I was to offer you Root or Butler right now for that World Cup, who would you pick?
Joe Root.
Yes, and there's a chance neither of them would be there, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, Root is also on the wrong side of 30, so that's a bit...
Well on the wrong side of it. I mean, they're both deep into their, and they might both play on.
Adil Rashid will be gone, right?
You would assume.
Would fill in those shoes?
Yeah.
Who would bowl those overs of spin?
They've got a couple of young spinners which is going to have to play in that World Cup because Rian Ahmed is going to have to get a lot better at bowling in a short period of time. Bryden Cast is someone they've really invested in. And you've just said Overton might be better than him. Bryden Carson's always injured. Jamie Overton's always injured, right? Mark Woods is always injured. Jofra Archer's always injured. So the core that they have of 4 guys who can bowl 90 miles an hour and slam the ball into the middle of the pitch, we never even really got to see them do that.
Yeah.
So it's not a great, Banton seems to have found a new lot of form, but they didn't even want to play him in this. I mean, looking at this squad now, I would have had him at 3. At least he would have understood the assignment. So there are huge questions, I think. And Bethel will probably, you would hope that Bethel will be around in 2017. But it's a good question from JViz, because, who the hell knows, right?
I would say that one of Joss Butler and Joe Root will be around along with Harry Brook and Ben Duckett. I think that's quite fair. I feel like it's a safe call to make. But like the days of white hot England are, they seem like an eternity ago. That's the issue over here. They have been mediocre for so long.
I don't want to throw Matt Roller and Tim Wigmore under the bus, but I had Roller on the podcast because they wrote the book about that, right? And Roller, and I said to Roller, do you just think this is a machine now? And he's like, yeah, I just think it's a machine and they keep churning out. And I was like, I don't know. I look at this next crop of players and I don't necessarily see it at the same level. And it's a bit like when West Indies, the second generation of those West Indies players came through. The first generation were quite well-rounded, and you had guys who made triple hundreds, and guys like Andre Russell and Kyron Pollard might not have been like test legends, right? But they both would have been pretty handy test players and played first-class cricket, right? They traveled around, all these different guys. Dwayne Bravo had made 100 against Australia in a test match. All these different experiences, and that next generation was like, well, Nicholas Pooran has basically never played a first-class game, and Shimron Hetmeyer is a bit of a giant child at times, right? Like, and you start to look at that and you go, oh, okay, we see the talent, but is it rounded? And I saw the exact same thing with the young Elam players coming through, where I'm like, Tom Banton can basically play right arm seam when it's bowled into the slot. Everything else he struggles with.
Isn't Phil Salt kind of the same? Even though he got out to right arm seam today.
Yeah, Phil Salt is another player who I think Phil Salt's really talented.
And
we're not seeing the benefit, right?
And if I hadn't seen his recent form, right, I would have said that he would be a part of that 2027 ODI World Cup squad as well. But he might be young enough. Would he be good enough?
Phil Salt is it's a very interesting player because the way that they're playing at the moment, does he even fit what they want to do? The real question isn't just who the players are. What's their strength?
Yeah. Because
the only thing that I can see in this team that can be their strength is 4 guys who bowl 90 miles an hour, right? And they might be able to still do that in 2 years' time. Outside of that, I don't know I don't know, looking at the paper, what you would say they're going to be able to do. They don't have all-rounders anymore. They don't have batters who can bat really long. And their sloggers don't seem at the same level.
Do they bring Sam Curran back? They might have to, right? Yeah, so here's a good super chat. It says, what happened to Will Jacks? Would Curran and Stokes, would they have helped? Stokes, I think he's made it clear that he doesn't want to play ODIs anymore. Sam Curran, you could potentially say, wouldn't have been that bad an option, right?
What would he have done in this team is my question to you.
Bowl cutters.
Do you think you can get through 10 overs a game of Sam Curran?
Yeah, that would be a bit of a stretch.
That's the issue, isn't it? If you have Stokes and you have Root and you have Livingston, that's fine. But we haven't even mentioned Livingston.
Yeah.
Right?
Livingston has had a horrible time. But Curran, at least I feel like his batting game suits ODI cricket. And Will Jacks is another interesting one. They might as well take a punt on him at this point.
I'm a big fan of Will Jacks. So I kind of feel like he's a much more interesting prospect long term because he can bowl a little bit as well. Yes. I don't think Stokes is going to play one-day cricket ever again. Yeah. I think that's done. Unless his knees miraculously come back together, right? There's a good one here. I don't know if you saw this from Trishant.
Yeah, so Trishant is asking, is Afghanistan the second best Asian ODI team currently? I would say yes. I think they are, because Pakistan are in an abyss of slow run scoring. That's where they're at. Bangladesh just, it's their batting that fails them every time. Sri Lanka is the interesting one. That's where you feel like, are they better than Afghanistan? Are they not? And I feel like if you schedule a 5-match ODI series between Afghanistan and Sri Lanka, Afghanistan probably take that because their batting is more stable and their spinners are more potent. So I would have them ahead of Sri Lanka. And look, I'm just a massive fan of Afghanistan cricket and their rise because they keep charting new territory. You know, first time they're featuring in a Champions Trophy, and now they've defeated England, and they are a proper shot for the semi-final as we speak, right? They made a T20 World Cup semi-final not too long ago, and in the ODI World Cup, they could very well have, you know, reached the semi-final if not for Glenn Maxwell's alien-esque unbeaten 201 off one leg, right? So I would actually like to give a lot of credit over here to Jonathan Trott, because he's got these tournament results for Afghanistan. And I know a certain Yunus Khan would also be really, really happy today. But I feel like it's been a really encouraging story. And I cannot think of another team, at least in recent memory, who have had that higher trajectory, you know, in terms of how recently they've started playing at the top level.
Oh, well, Sri Lanka's the obvious one, isn't it?
But that's
So
also like, it's been a while, right?
No, but Sri Lanka won a World Cup in 96 and we were a test playing nation in 82.
Yep.
So that's pretty similar, isn't it? I think it's a very different kind of story because Sri Lanka were very good at cricket for a long time, and you could have argued should have been a test playing nation well ahead of when they were. Whereas that's not the case with Afghanistan. But yeah, no, it is. It's absolutely miraculous and everything else. The Jonathan Trott stuff's really interesting because they were a team before where everyone batted like a number 8, right? And that could actually get them very big scores, but really, really tiny scores. And Jonathan Trott obviously came in, had a look at the talent around it, was like, actually, if we just back, you know, Ramat Shah and Hashmatullah and Zadran and Gurbaz to just knock it around, and then we attack on the other side of the ball. Like, this is a serious question. If you just swapped Bangladesh's batting and Afghanistan's batting, right? Those sides would actually, like, Bangladesh might be the second best ODI side because Bangladesh have a very good bowling attack, right? But they never get to bowl at anything at all.
Yeah.
Whereas Afghanistan managed to just get enough. So it's interesting. And the amount of times I've watched Bangladesh being like, got 40 more runs here. And like 40 on this pitch, they should have scored more 40 more runs. So it's a good tactic. It's very limited. And so they can get found out, and they're not a fully, you know, they're not like a great strong side, all things considered. But there's so many different parts of it that work really well. You know, they're really impressive. And because they play so much ODI cricket, they all know what their jobs are, right? They know they're gonna bat first like 80% of the time because they love batting first, right? And everyone else is gonna send them in. And then it's really up to the batters to get 200. And the amount of times I've seen exactly what happened today, them get to about 200 odd, and I'm like, this is where they kick on, and usually this is where they collapse. They didn't do it today. So they even took it to a different level than we've seen at other times. And that's what they did against Australia as well, if you think back to that game.
Interestingly enough, you know, I feel like they have upped their game to a certain extent, because if you go back to the previous game, I know they lost it and they were undone by length, just, you know, couldn't deal with that South African pace attack, and them completely or continuously hitting a hard length and with the odd bumper and everything. But Ramat Shah, the guy who we take the absolute piss out of for scoring not so quickly, scored 90 off 92. Ramat Shah, the same dude who we expect to get to 100 off 180 deliveries, he batted it nearly run a ball. And today, I mean, there was only one hero with the bat, really. I mean, I know everyone else chipped in, but player of the match, Ibrahim Zadran, completely stole the show. He made or broke so many records, Jarrod. His 177 of 146 today is the highest ever score by an Afghan batter in ODI cricket, like ever. He beat his own record, 160 odd, right? And then also this was the highest ever individual score in Champions Trophy history. So let's not forget that. Ben Duckett held the record for like all of 4 days. And then also, you know, it was such a mature knock, because first he soaked in the pressure and he dealt with high pace, express pace, which his colleagues weren't able to deal with. And then later on, he capitalized and he was striking it so well down the ground and square of the wicket. You know, in one over, he hit Jofra Archer on the cut for like 3 different boundaries in 3 different ways. He was absolutely on top of his game, and he might just be one of the better anchors going around in world cricket.
Yeah, I think he's on the verge of being an automatic run scorer in ODI cricket, you know, on that level. And it's why I was telling everyone that he was a chance of scoring the most runs in this tournament, right? Because he's not actually a particularly easy player to get out, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't make many mistakes. He's very smart. He's got a great technique. He doesn't get sucked in by situations. And then today, we're starting to see, hopefully, that next level, right? Of I can score a little bit quicker, and it could just be. I know he's listed at 23, but he's probably 25, 26, 27, right? And
Yeah,
would be my
easily.
guess anyway. And it might just be that it's all coming together for him now. And look, I've been massively high on him for a long time. And this was the innings I kind of been waiting for, right? Of just him, completely in control.
I mean, look, Afghanistan scored 325 and he scored 177 out of those runs. And he also scored a ton versus Australia in that game that Maxwell stole from Afghanistan. So his trajectory has been, on the up for a while. Cheyenne was getting super excited and was asking me, like, how's he been doing? And I said, like, yes, he did struggle early on versus Mark Wood with that ball that shapes away. Right? And that was it. I cannot remember him struggling throughout the rest of the innings. And his game versus pace is very, very commendable, I feel. Anyway, we've got a super chat from Qazi Muhammad, and he says, England ODI performance is a mess because of tournaments like the 100. By the way, how good a talent is Ibrahim? He can be an upcoming great for Afghanistan's team. His balance and composure as a batter is up there with the greats. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and call him a great just yet. But yes, his trajectory is solid. And yeah, I mean, what else can we even add?
Yeah, the 100 thing doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Partly just because England have always had a messy domestic system, and these players wouldn't be playing domestic list A cricket anyway. They don't play international ODIs. Like, if you're looking for something more obvious, it's that.
Yeah. Another super chat by Andy. He says, how would you rank the top 5 most talented ODI sides in the world in full health? You want to go first?
I would probably be India, Australia, South Africa. I don't even know who fourth is. New Zealand or Afghanistan, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. I would have...
And maybe Sri Lanka.
I would have South Africa ahead of Australia because I feel like South Africa's next generation is coming through nicely, whereas I don't know if that can be said for Australia. You've got Jake Fraser-McGurk, who hasn't quite cut it yet. Cooper Connolly, I haven't seen a lot of. And
yeah, but if you're talking about the most talented ODI sides in the world right now, neither of those are in that side. So if you've got Short, Head, Maxwell, Marsh all playing for you, and then you've got the Australian frontline bowlers. I mean, you could pick South Africa. I'm not saying South Africa is a bad choice, but I think Australia has a higher ceiling than South Africa when fully fit. Yeah, at the moment, I would pick South Africa because they do have more players. But yeah, there's not much between it.
I would be confused between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan as well, because Afghanistan has some world-class players, right? Whereas Sri Lanka, I feel they are probably better as a unit. At least, if you look at all 11, it's a tricky one. But at 4, I suppose, who did you have at 4?
New Zealand or Afghanistan?
Yeah. New Zealand's probably got to be up there as well because they've got Will O'Rourke come through as well. So yeah, those would be our top 5. But this is an interesting question, Andy. So everyone who's watching this, viewers, listeners, whatever, give us your top 5 in the comments below because we'd be interested to know about that as well. All right. I know that Ibrahim Zadran will steal all the limelight and the headlines, but he wasn't the only noteworthy performer today for Afghanistan. Azmatullah Omarzai, ODI Player of the Year in 2024, and someone who I often call Hardik Pandya light, right? Because he has got the same skill set. He also bowls with the new ball. Not only did he take 5 for 58 today, bowling England out and recording his maiden fifer in ODI cricket, he also scored 41 of 31 with the bat. And he's handy with the bat and with the ball. He's pitching in perfectly, provides great balance, and he is also rising very, very quickly, Jarrod.
Yeah, I was really worried about Naveen not playing. By the way, if Naveen plays today, they probably win even easier. But I was really worried about Naveen not playing only because it means that they had to use Omarzai with the new ball, and he also has to bowl again at the death. And he's not quite a finished article as a bowler at the moment, right? He has incredible talent, but he's not quite there. Yeah. This is the best I've seen him bowl when the ball hasn't swung, right? So when the ball swings, he can always be great. But this is the best I haven't seen him bowl when the ball hasn't swung. And sometimes when he comes in situations where he's trying to score really fast, he just plays a little bit too loose. And I thought he was just a little bit more on it today. He's actually quite a good player at knocking it around. Like, he's a proper batter, right? But sometimes you watch him come in and he just starts to slog straight away. And you're like, oh, you don't need to do that, mate.
I feel like he has a good power hitting game as well, but he has this one weakness versus the short stuff. So if I'm a bowler, if I'm a captain, I'm giving my ball to my express seamer. I'm going to say, like, target his elbow, right? because he's been out, twice now down the leg side to the keeper. So that is a bit of a weakness. But again, he's young, and he's also, made a lot of waves, or created a lot of waves in the recent past, ever since that ODI World Cup. And then he had a pretty solid T20 World Cup, if memory serves me right. And then he is offering them impetus in the middle order, right? And after the likes of Rahmat Shah, who, of course, I know he's just scored 90 of 92, but you need a bit of firepower after them.
No, definitely.
And
they do get stuck. They do
Yes,
get stuck
they
a
do.
lot.
And Azmatullah, Nabi, and Gulbadin, all of these guys can offer them a bit more explosive batting. And it's crazy. Like, I feel like Afghanistan, if they are going to give us a crazy cricket story, if they're going to give us an arc, this has to be the tournament, because Mohammad Nabi, even though he has like intentions of playing international cricket with his son, he is an important cog in this side. He is pitching in with regular wickets. He's struck with the first ball of his spell twice now in 2 games, and he's picking up a couple of wickets. He's scoring very handy runs. I feel like Nabi's power hitting game has also, it's gotten better over the years. I feel like it's the best right now, weirdly enough. And, if they lose him tomorrow, then that ODI side does take a hit, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they do have flexibility because, they're already playing Gulbadin, who doesn't need to play. Right? Like, they are using Gulbadin in this spot where you could just come in with a specialist batter or a specialist bowler if you wanted to, right?
Yeah.
And that's because Omarzai plays. Also, they can get a little bit of batting out of Rashid Khan as well. So if they just wanted to go into a game now with Omarzai as their 5th bowler and 4 other specialist bowlers, they could actually do that. So Mohammad Nabi is no longer as important as he used to be, but it gives them incredible flexibility. And they obviously like having Gulbadin around. Like, that over between him and Liam Livingstone was, I feel dumber for having watched it as a cricket fan. Like, I was just like, someone's going to do something stupid here. And Gulbadin bowled a bunch of tripe and then got a wicket. And I was like, that maybe that when stupid hits stupid, it just sort of explodes. I don't know.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one of these guys in your team, who would you pick? Evan Galbis or Gulbadin Naib? I've broken
you would pick Evan Galbis. Evan Galbis, peak Evan Galbis probably bowled about 3 yards quicker than Gulbadin. Yeah, I'm not sure he was quite as clever a cricketer as Gulbadin, all things considered. But yeah, so so you look at this and you're just like, I think they have flexibility now. By the way, on Livingston, we got this question, which is fun.
Mohit Reddy says, Livingston is a useless player. Never plays good for his country. Why in the world was Sam Curran not in the team? Who even is Jamie Smith? All right, now I feel you've gotten a bit too harsh. Jamie Smith has done really well in Test cricket of recent times. Look, I like Liam Livingstone as far as his skill set is concerned. He's an explosive lower middle order batter, and he can offer you both leg spin and off spin. So I feel like he is versatile like that.
I think
yes,
Livingston has better stats than Sam Curran, by the way, in ODI cricket. I think if you actually go into it.
He's not the most intelligent bloke around the corner, I feel. And then he does have this weakness against the cutter. What's up with that, Jarrod?
He's got a few weaknesses. He is a sort of he needs a flat pitch and he needs to hit through the line. We've seen him be brilliant at times at doing that. The Sam Curran thing, can we just all let that go? Like, who remembers Sam Curran as a good ODI bowler? He averaged over 40 with the ball at more than a run a ball and averaged 22 or something with the bat at like 85, 90 strike rate. Like, how is that a good player? How is that going to help them today? That kind of player. So I think we need to be a little bit, and Liam Livingstone's just bowled the greatest death over of all time. The truth is that Sam Curran hasn't really become the player that England would have wanted him to be. But more importantly, as I've said a lot, and where Punjab kept getting this wrong, is you have to know what kind of a player Sam Curran is. If you try and build a side around Sam Curran, it's going to fail because he's not very good at batting, and he's not very. Do you know what Sam Curran is? He's a better Gulbis and Gulbadin, right? And so in a team like Afghanistan, we have Mohammad Nabi on one side of him, and Omarzai and Mohammad Nabi there. They already have the flexibility to go in with a player like Gulbadin. England can't carry a player like Gulbadin at the moment. Right? They need someone else. They need a specialist batter who can bowl a little bit or a specialist bowler who can bat. And so it's either Overton or Livingston or however they do that. Curran isn't helping any of these things, right? Now, Curran's still young. And I still think he can develop into a better cricketer, but he's bowling about 127 kilometers an hour these days. He doesn't swing it as much as he used to, and his batting is subpar compared to any other top 6 player that England could pick. So they can't bat him in the top 6, and his bowling isn't good enough.
Would you take Ben Curran, the batter, over Sam Curran, the batter?
I think Sam Curran's a bit quicker than Ben Curran, isn't he? There's some interesting questions here as well. And so Andy's asked about Noah. Noah was bowling really, really accurately not that long ago, right? Even maybe a few weeks ago in the SA20. He's suddenly started going everywhere. Like, it's not he's not bowling particularly well at the moment. It could just be a form thing. He might have an injury, but the ball's not coming out of Noah Ahmed's hand very well at all at the moment.
But like, the length is off, the line is off. Sometimes he's bowling freebies, and he's also bowling them quick. So it's quite easy to get him away unless you're Rasif van der Dusen, right?
Well, also, if the other big problem is if he bowls one down the leg side, it's almost always 4 byes because of the pace he bowls.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So it's not just that, and you get. There was one game, I can't remember, it might have been SA20 or it might have been in the one of the other games I was watching him bowl, where it's like every time he gets an edge, it goes for 4 as well, right? Because he does bowl at such a pace.
Yeah, that's true. Also, he had another question. Sorry, can you bring the previous super chat up? Andy spoke about Pathirana's new action.
We're not going to talk about that today.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. Sorry, Andy. We've got another one by Rahul Punja, super chat, which asks, Ben said losing to India didn't matter as long as they beat them in the Champions Trophy. He's talking about Ben Duckett, by the way, the man who's inspired 1.5 billion people or maybe more. And he asks, what does it mean when you don't even get to play India because you got knocked out? I mean, what does it mean?
Can I give you the truth about this? A bunch of people have been putting it in the comments. The truth is, he's right. Right? That series didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to break it to everyone, but it didn't matter. All England wanted to use that series for was to try and work out what their best lineup was and their best tactics were, right? I think they kind of worked out what their bowling was. Quite clearly, they didn't with their batting because they changed their batting when they got to this tournament. They only had a couple of ODIs. They haven't been playing ODIs very much. Their frontline players don't play ODIs very much. If they were using that series to try and beat India, they are the biggest idiots that have ever played cricket, right? And like, we have some question marks over the smartness of their cricket, but that shouldn't have been what they were using those games for. They should have been using those games to work out exactly the best way of going ahead, right? And the problem with England, though, is that's where the comments should have stopped. But they can't do that, can they? Because they then have to one-up everyone by making it an arrogant, stupid comment, right? Yeah. So the first half of it, absolutely fine. It didn't matter if they lost to India in that series. India's a really good team. They should have lost to them because they were trying some stuff and India were just playing good cricket. But the truth is that when you go, as long as we beat them in the Champions Trophy, well, you had the tough group, my man. You didn't even have to say that. You could have just said, we are using this to warm up for an ICC event. India's a really good side. They know what they're doing. We're just coming at this from a new angle and trying to do... That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But you can't do that in Buzzball anymore. You have to pick the stupidest possible thing to say. And Ben Duckett is... Someone told me once that Ben Duckett will be a great podcaster. And you hear him talk and he says things like this and you're like, maybe they're right. Like, he seems to rile people up at a level like, you know, I don't know if cricket needs he'll be cricket's Pat McAfee or something, but he seems to do the right thing from that point of view. But the first part is 100% correct.
Fair enough. Let's go to another super chat. Genius Genie asks, the way this group is going, Afghanistan might top it and South Africa might get knocked out because of rain in an ICC tournament, that too versus Australia. Now, this is an interesting one, Genius Genie, because I've actually done the math in my head, right? Before coming onto this podcast, when I was taking a shower, and then Varun called me asking where I was, and if I don't hop on in 2 minutes, they'll do it without me. This is just all that went down when I was thinking about these things.
That is very true.
Exactly how it played out, okay? So, now, Afghanistan are going to face Australia, and Australia are on 3 points, Afghanistan are on 2. So both sides want to win that to secure a place in the semi-finals. England are out, but they can play spoil sport versus South Africa, who are at 3 points, and they could get stuck at 3. But, Jarrod, I mean, what if Afghanistan defeat Australia and England defeats South Africa? Then Australia and South Africa will have to battle it out on net run rate, and that's where it gets exciting.
It does. It does. I had a bunch of bets on Afghanistan to win the tournament, and I cashed some of them in today because this game was so crazy. I was just like, oh, I've got a profit here, so I'll take my small profit. now I'm looking at it go, oh, if I'd left those. The big question is rain, because one of those games is scheduled to be rained off.
Is it? Because
well, who's playing on Friday? Is it? I've now forgotten the Friday game.
I know rain is a proper threat tomorrow for the New Zealand-Pakistan game.
I'm pretty sure that the weather betters, I was chatting to some of them today, and they were saying that they thought both games could be washed out. So that was one of the reasons I actually did cash out my bet, because I already had a profit. So I was like, okay. But yes, I think it's madness, right? And what, yesterday afternoon, we were thinking this could be so dull.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just completely flipped. And you know, I had a bet. I want to ask you about this bet. It probably won't come to fruition now, but I had a bet on Afghanistan to win and Bangladesh to win.
Okay.
Right?
Well, tomorrow.
Yeah,
Okay,
in
so
tomorrow's
it's a parlay bet for tomorrow and day after. Is that it?
Yeah. No, yeah, for today. So I've already got half my bet up, but for tomorrow. So my theory was that England didn't take this tournament all that seriously, got here, things weren't going right, and everyone keeps getting injured. And that Afghanistan had a chance. To be fair to England, I think they fought this one out pretty strongly in the end. There's a couple of times where I was like, they're going to slog and lose this, and they didn't.
To be fair to England, I think that they could have actually won both of these games that they've lost, and now they're knocked out, right?
That is, yeah, that was something else I was thinking about. I mean, they were in, and they were in front in both of these games at crucial times, and have managed to lose it. So look, anyway, it's very fascinating now, as you said. There's, you know, and that's what this tournament needed, because it was not going anywhere, was it? It really was quite dull.
By and large, today's game was the best one we've had in this Champions Trophy. But if tomorrow is washed out, which I think it will be, I'm not quite sure about day after, because Islamabad Rawalpindi rain is different to Lahore rain. And the drainage is better at the new Gaddafi Stadium. And that's where Afghanistan play Australia. Now, it might be toss dependent. If Australia go on and, make Afghanistan chase in that game, that might be the end of Afghanistan. But then again, if Afghanistan kind of roll Australia over for under 300, are they toast with the dew around?
Do you know what? Here's the thing with Australia is they don't have a lot of wicket-taking options. So Afghanistan, if Afghanistan bat first, they should get themselves to roughly 200 for 3 at one stage, right? Yeah. Unless something crazy happens at the start, right? They should get themselves to 200 for 3. And if they do, that's game on, isn't it, from that point onwards?
Absolutely. And I mean, we'll all be watching that game very, very keenly. But anyway, Abhinav Verma has a super chat in which he says, England played both matches at Lahore and lost. Did someone forget to tell them it's an advantage staying in the same hotel? Now, I know what you're doing over here.
It's the Dubai thing.
Abhinav. Yeah, you definitely...
Well, here's the important thing, Abhinav, that you need to know here. As someone who's worked in cricket, it is an advantage to stay in the same hotel. But it doesn't matter if you shit and all your players get injured. And if you get a bowler injured in both of your games, staying in the same hotel doesn't matter as much, right? Like, if, thank you for the super chat, but like that one's pretty easy to tuck around the corner for 2.
Yeah. Also, what I will say over here is that the Lahore conditions suited England because they were flat decks and I mean, they were batting second.
England got exactly what they wanted. England got exactly what they wanted. They were short in the first game against Australia, right? Yep. Probably 35 runs short.
They were 200 for 2, I think, at the 30 over mark. You do not end up just with just 350 after that. That was unacceptable.
Do you want to know what my bet was at that stage? Someone put up 14-1 odds on England making 420. That's what my bet was, because I thought they were going to score 400 at least, right? Yeah. Like, and so they've ended up a long way short of that. And in this game, how many times in this game were they ahead? They were ahead early on, right? They had a chance at the death as well. Like they had them 4-5 wickets down. All you needed was a couple of good death overs, right? Yeah. They just never brought it together at the times that they needed to. And that's because they're not a very well-drilled side and they're not a particularly top-level side at the moment, right? The 2 teams that have beaten them look much better at one-day cricket than they do.
And both of these teams, Afghanistan, of course, are, dark horses, but Australia were depleted as fuck. And they let them chase 350 plus, despite having moments in the game where they could have seized control, like that Jofra Archer drop off Alex Carey. Anyway, another super chat by Jay Viz. He says, any reason England never considered Sam Hain thus far? I love this question because in the early days of me joining Good Areas, when it wasn't even called Good Areas, this used to be talked about a lot because Sam Hain had made the team, maybe played one series. He's this guy who has dominated list A cricket, but doesn't quite fit the bill of white hot England, right? He's not the guy who's going to completely turn the game around and take the opposition out of it. He's someone who will score big runs consistently at what, 85? A strike rate of 85? Is that fair?
I think it's almost exactly 86. Yeah, so you're close.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
So he averages 57 in list A cricket. He's played 2 games. Look, the truth is that he doesn't fit what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, if this was South Africa, Sam Hain would have played, right? Because he would have batted in the top order. They would have just let him average 57 and then brought all their hitters in later on. That's not how England plays. So we don't know how England is going to play in the next 2 years. My guess is Brendan McCullum is not going to be their coach by the next World Cup. So they're going to have quite a few different changes between now and then. You could go down. The England method at its best still needs strike rotators in the middle order, right? So when they were at their absolute best, they had Root, Morgan, and Stokes knocking the ball around, averaging over 35, but scoring at still near runnable. They weren't slow, right? But they did that on the back of Besto and Hales and Roy and, you know, whoever else was at the top, whacking them. And then they had a batting order that went to like 8, 9, or 10, and they could keep slogging all the way through. England needs to work out what this team is, right? And if you have Duckett and you have Hain and you have Root and I don't know, I'm trying to think of someone else who could do a similar kind of role. Maybe that's it. Or maybe what you do is you have one hitter, one strike rotator, one hitter, one strike rotator. And, you know, they have to work all that out, right? There was no way they were going to be able to work that out for this tournament. Had they had success at this tournament, it would have largely been fluke. Right?
Yeah, but Jarrod, we both, when we were previewing the Champions Trophy, said that if they get flat decks, they're in with a shot. They fucked this up despite getting flat decks. So that's entirely on England.
Yeah, I don't think any of it's not on England. But the point being is, it still would have been a fluke if they'd done well because they had fucking Jamie Smith at number 3 and they hadn't done any warm-up with Jamie Smith at number 3. Like at a certain point, it was all just hoping for the best, right? And we have seen Australia win World Cups with that, you know, the whole Mitch Marsh in a T20 World Cup thing. You can have success doing that, right? But chances are, more likely than not, if you go through the history of the game, you're probably just going to be going nowhere.
It's funny how you say Sam Hain would have made it to South Africa's team, right? Because he totally would have. He would have been Sam Hainder Doosan if he was South African. And he might, I mean, that's not a bad career choice for him.
Isn't he qualified for 3 teams anyway? He qualifies for Hong Kong, Australia, and England, Sam Hain. He can play for anyone. Why isn't he batting first drop for Hong Kong?
Yeah, it's interesting how all of these South African players, they switch to or go start playing county cricket and try to, you know, get naturalized and play for England. Sam Hain missed a trick by not doing the reverse. Yeah, he would have been very, very successful. But anyway, we've got one more super chat, I reckon, and it's from Argo Kopite. If you could just bring that up, Varun.
We've got more than one, by the way.
Oh, we do? Wow, my word, today it's lit. He says, or asks, is Baz the Mikel Arteta of cricket? All noise but no trophy. Now, I don't think Mikel Arteta has done anything revolutionary at Arsenal. So I don't think this is a good analogy. And Jarrod wouldn't know because he doesn't really watch any football. But look, I feel like there is a lot of merit in Bazball. And also Bazball is test cricket. The white ball stuff had been going on forever in England. So there is a difference over there.
I'm not going to have a go at Brendan McCullum for coming in a couple of months before the tournament. And not winning the
World Test Championship final. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Qualify, but I don't think that's fair. But
no, but I'm saying for this tournament, I'm not worried about McCullum at all. If anything, I've actually been quite interested by the fact that he changed his tactics because he hasn't been doing that, has he? And the way that Ben Duckett batted in both these games shows that England is actually reading the room a little bit and playing smarter cricket. But they're still not as good as the other sides.
Yeah. All right. Who else do we have? Varun, bring up the next super chat. We've got Rahul Punja. He says, by the way, longtime fan, love you guys. J, you are the G. Well, thanks, Rahul. Thanks for all the appreciation and your generous super chat as well. We love you too. And now we've got Supriya Mondal up next.
Sorry, I'm just trying to. Who was that one by? Was that by Rahul? Yeah.
Yes, that was by Rahul Punja. Yeah. Supriyo Mondal asks, if Overton showed more intent, England would have won at the end because Root had to attack instead and got out. I highly disagree with this. I thought Overton was playing a very, very fine knock. If anything, his shot was stupid where he chipped the ball to the long one fielder. England needed 17 off 14. It was a really unnecessary kind of poke at that point. And if he wanted to have a crack at it, he should have gone the full Monty.
Yeah, what Root was doing was fine. and he went out to it. And Overton still had Jofra behind him and had Adil behind him. So I think that was fine. And Overton batted really well with Jofra, right? Like they went from outsiders to hot favourites again within that partnership. And I'm with Behram. Like, I'm not sure I would have played that shot. I probably would have chipped it around a little bit longer. But if you're going to play that shot, he had to play it. And that, so I would say that was a lack of intent that did him in. They also, when a player is injured like that, I think Overton probably wasn't, Overton and Root, it looked like to me, weren't having very good conversations because Root kept trying to run twos, right? Whereas actually, probably what needed to happen was one of them needed to just say, we're going to have to get a couple of boundaries here and just, spare you for a moment. But, they didn't quite do that. So they were in the middle. But it's, that's what happens at the end of these chases, right? That isn't the reason Jamie Overton is not the reason they lost this game. What you're doing there is you're just remembering a thing that happened very, very close to the end, which is a normal human thing to do. But they lost this game. I can go through 25 different reasons why they lost this game. Like Mark Wood's toe is far more important than anything Jamie Overton did.
Absolutely. Also, what if they had a certain Chris Wokes to take the new ball in this tournament and he could bat below Livingston? Maybe that would have given them a bit more, I don't know, insurance?
They wanted the thing is that the fast bowlers is the one thing that on paper makes sense for this tide, right? So you're right. I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't have done that. What's Wokes' batting though now? You'd have Carson Overton ahead of him, wouldn't you?
Maybe as far as hitting sixes is concerned, yes, but Wokes is giving you
no, but I'm saying in the order.
And
so I mean, I was thinking about this a while ago that they could have gone with Wokes let's say Wokes, Overton, and Cast all on the same side, batting at 7, 8, and 9, with Jofra and Adil Rashid behind them, because that gives you new ball stuff. It gives you extra hitting all the way down the order. So that actually probably goes a little bit towards it. But then you just don't play Wood, right? Yes. And they clearly wanted to play Wood, so I probably would have gone that way. Also, they had Atkinson in this squad, who, through no fault of England, completely lost form and speed at the exact wrong time and was unplayable. They should have tried to replace him with Wokes. That would have been, then I would give. But they also had Mahmood, who they never played as well. True. They didn't exactly go through their lineup completely, did they?
Yeah. Because this is a team that used to rely on guys who can also bat, right? At least bowlers who can also bat. And Wokes does still fit that bill. And I mean, I still like him with the new ball. But anyway, that's a separate conversation. We've got Soham Chatterjee in the Super Chats now. He says, note, all rains are linked. There's a powerful western disturbance affecting Northwest India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. We got a really cool tornado out of it in Afghanistan today.
Not sure the people in the tornado would have felt that it was as cool.
Yeah,
look, there's a lot of rain around in that area, and it would be a shame now that we've somehow managed to make this tournament alive again, and then ended up in the same situation. So it would be a real shame if that's the way that we've gone. But they could. All I'm saying is this: there is a very good chance of very little cricket over the next 2 days of this tournament, which would be a huge shame. But these things happen.
Yeah, let's see what happens about that. We've got Jonathan Braun in the Super Chats now from New Zealand. He says, thoughts on Daryl Mitchell being dropped. He wasn't dropped, he was unfit. So I think that answers it, Jonathan.
What's his injury?
I'm not sure. It was just a niggle, so I think he's expected to play the next game. But yeah, I mean, they wouldn't drop Daryl Mitchell.
Wouldn't they?
He's been... You think they would? Because
Is he the same Daryl Mitchell as before? Would be my question.
Number 4, he's not that bad an option because he can whack spinners down the ground.
No. I mean, look, I think if you're asking me about Daryl Mitchell in full form, I'm not sure Daryl Mitchell's quite in the same form he was a year and a half ago when he was one of the best players in the world in almost every format he wanted to be in, right? It just feels to me like he's not quite. I know he played one I'm trying to think. He played one great innings in India. He
played a decent knock in Pakistan recently in the Tri-Series.
Did he? Oh, well, then fair enough. I mean, I think if he's in form, he's absolutely fine. They've got a lot of options in that side. The reason I like Daryl Mitchell is because he he has the ability to play the anchor role, which suits New Zealand. But if he stays in, he can just smack sixes, right? Which is, that's one thing that him and Rassie van der Dussen have over a lot of other players who play that similar kind of role. They just can't do that, right? They just do not have that ability to be able to hit sixes later on.
But Jonathan, I reckon that in the next game, you might see Devon Conway move out, and then you can have Rachin open the batting with Will Young and Daryl Mitchell back at 4. I think that's what they're going to do. Anyway, Adi Chris with another super chat. He says, does England have a high-level all-rounder like other big sides coming up through the ranks? Hardik, Mitch Marsh, Janssen, etc. That seems to be missing.
Well, Overton is the one.
Jacob Bethel?
I don't know if he can bowl. I'm not. He might be able to when he's older. I'm not sure at the moment. There's a reason why we see Overton on our TV screens all the time, Addy, because they're trying to make him into this player because they don't have it. Ben Stokes is not playing, and Sam Curran hasn't quite done it yet, right? So they don't really have anyone coming through. Does Rocky Flintoff bowl?
Yeah. What about Michael Vaughan's kid? What does he do? Archie.
He's an offie, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Like his dad?
I thought his dad bowled leg spin. No, you might be right. It was off spin, wasn't it? No. I think you're right. It was off spin.
I actually don't know much about Archie Vaughan. I know more about Rocky Flintoff, but I think he's primarily a batter as well.
I think so. I think this is such a weird conversation, but I think someone told me the other day he can actually bowl, but hasn't bowled very much at the higher level at the moment. I don't know how we ended up talking about Rocky Flintoff. No, they don't have really anyone coming through. Cass and Overton are kind of their hopes, and neither of them are really strong enough with the bat. I think they got a little bit overexcited with Atkinson's batting for a while. Sam Curran needs to be good at one thing. Bethel is an interesting one. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else who could bowl a little bit of spin. But yeah, so it's not a perfect situation for them from that point of view.
Far from perfect. Another super chat by Wesley Maestri. He asks, is the strike rate of Shahidi sustainable? It was a blessing in disguise at the time he got out. Striking in the 60s is really poor in his opinion. Well, I mean, look, he's not the perfect cricketer, Hashmatullah Shahidi, but he's experienced. He can do a job. He's led them all right. I think I've been impressed with his captaincy for the most part, although I would have kept more Rashid Khan overs for the death overs, right? Like in the last 10, I would have had at least 3 to 4 Rashid Khan overs. It didn't matter in the end. And it's not like, look, they're spoiled for choice when it comes to middle order batters. So he's probably the best they have in that position.
They just want someone to make sure they don't lose wickets, Wesley, so they can get to 200 for 3. That is, like, I haven't talked to Trotty about this. I haven't seen Trotty on the circuit in ages. But if I saw Trotty, I'd be like, is your plan to get to 200 for 3? Because it seems to me, almost every time I see him in ODI cricket, they try and get to 200 for 3. A guy who averages 33 and is a very, very responsible player helps them do that. Right. And that's what they are trying to do. And then when they get to 200 for 3, OP goes out and someone else can slog around them, or they can defend 260, 270. No one thinks, no one would be talking him up as a great limited overs player from that point of view, but he fits the style that they are trying to play. So if you put his batting into almost any other side on earth, it wouldn't make sense. But in this side, it does make sense. It's still too slow. Like, it's still too slow. But so's Ramat Shah. Zadran can get caught, right? They have a few guys who can bat really, really too slow at times.
That's true. Anyway, we've got two more super chats. You guys are really reining it in with the super chats today. Aditya Mani Jha is up next. He says, our number 7 and 8, the Overton window.
Hey.
The hardest positions to fill in ODIs, especially from a tactical point of view. I mean, you really would be blessed to have a certain Marco Janssen type of player at 8, right? And then you can go for a more genuine all-rounder at 7.
That's the perfect. Janssen's the perfect one because they tried to make him into a number 7, and he might one day be a number 7, but he certainly wasn't a number 7 when they were trying him there, right? And you see someone like Liam Livingston, right, where they're trying to make him into a number 7 who can bowl them a little bit of overs, but the bowling doesn't always work. Marcus Stoinis for Australia, it is tough. And generally, if you look at the history of teams that don't win World Cups who are good, or ICC events who are good, it's generally around the 7 and 8 positions where they have their most troubles, right? Where they end up in a situation where it doesn't quite work, where they maybe end up with a player who's not good enough to be in as a batter or as a bowler. And so you do end up, but also the Overton window is absolutely perfect because what you are getting in Overton, in Marco Janssen, I'm trying to think of other guys who've had to do this around the world. Is someone batting at 7 when no one thinks they should be batting at 7 in a 50 overs game, right? Everyone thinks they should be at 8, but they end up at 7 because you're looking for that balance. And so, you end up with Scott Styris bowling, but that's a different conversation for another day.
True. All right. Now, this should be the final super chat by Mohit.
Stop
Reddy.
saying that.
Because more come after. Yeah, of course. I'm the jinxer over here anyway, but I'm getting you more super chat money, so you should be happy. Mohit Reddy says, football cross, cricket cross, or X, whatever. People in England will be like, we're shit, aren't we? Look, I think that's a bit too cruel. England not too long ago, they won an ODI World Cup and a T20 World Cup, and they hadn't won anything ever before that.
Were they the first team to win one of each?
I think so.
No, India. India won the T20 World Cup. Yes. I think that was the first team to hold them at the same time. Maybe that's what it was.
They were the first team to hold them at the same time, and now I feel like, Australia also became a team to hold them at the same time, no?
Yeah, that was after, though. Yeah, that was
after.
Yeah. So,
and if you look at their football, dude, they've been, sure, they haven't won anything, but they've been making the semifinals and the finals of almost every event. I think, you'd really have to be a pessimistic sort of English football fan to be upset with that.
Look, let's be honest, though. We are all children
optimistic, you'd have to be optimistic to be upset with that. Yeah.
We are all children of colonization. And I wrote in 2016, 2017, whatever it was, that England was one of the most interesting sides in the world. And people hated that. They hated the theory that England could be interesting, right? And it's because we all have, whether you be in Pakistan, I be in Australia, someone else is in Sri Lanka or India or South Africa, or wherever we all may be, West Indies, we all have a little bit of something in us, right? That I watched that Pakistani fan today jumping around in the England shirt, and I'm like, oh, yeah. It's not for me. It's not for me, right? You don't see me wearing an England shirt very often, right? I don't even think I own one. So I understand that sort of stuff. But realistically, from 2015 to 2022, they were the best white ball team in the world. And they have probably been even when they're not been good in Test cricket, they've certainly been the most interesting story in Test cricket over the last 3 or 4 years. And they, for a very long time, were shithouse. In the 80s and the 90s, they were a terrible team. This is a huge step up on where they were from before. So, you've got to put all that in context, right? So it's okay that they're not good at the moment. And we can laugh at it as well. We're allowed to laugh at it. They literally limped out of this tournament with one guy having a cramp and another guy who shouldn't have been out there batting. They could not have limped out of this tournament anymore. If every English headline doesn't have England limp out of the tournament, all those people should lose their jobs.
I feel like, of course, the 2019 or take it to 2017 to 2022 team was one of the best we've seen in white ball cricket. As far as English teams are concerned, the only other good ODI team I remember was mid-2000s? The Michael Vaughan, Stephen Harmison team and KP. Those guys were good. Apart from that, and Flintoff, throw him in there as well. Apart from that, they've always been crap at this format. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Certainly since it's been white ball, they've been crap.
Yes.
They weren't too bad with red ball at times, but white ball, yes.
Yeah. Chirag Sharma with another super chat says, best game to bet yet, Jarrod.
Not for me, it wasn't.
I think Chirag, he's saying that he backed England thrice near fours and booked at 1.48. And ODIs are a cash cow sometimes. Also, you need to open a betting channel, Jarrod.
Chirag, if you want to go, we have one on our Discord. There's a betting channel and we were talking about it today. So feel free to come over.
Become a patron, Chirag. All right, Kunav Puthur. I'm sorry if I've obliterated your name, but he says, hi all, I don't have any questions, but enjoy the analysis you both do. Also, Jarrod, I enjoy your takes on movies as well, especially Star Wars. Tell them that was your thing before you became a cricket journalist.
I was a filmmaker, and a film nerd. I'm trying to think of if this England team, what sort of Darth Lord they would have been, right? Because they're not cool enough to be they're not cool enough to be Darth Maul, right? What is it? But General Grievous is pretty cool as well. Maybe the Christopher Lee one, whose name I always forget. But they're disappointing if you're looking at that from that point of view. But thank you very much for the super chat.
If England were a Batman, they would be the George Clooney one, I feel. Yeah, because they're supposed to be good, right?
Oh,
but they're not.
But wasn't Clooney still entertaining as Batman, right? Is Ben Affleck the better Batman because he's kind of, again, should have been better than he was, and the movie sucked as well, and it wasn't even fun. Like, what's the most fun thing about that movie? It's making fun of the fact that they suddenly realized that they both had mums with the same name. Like, you know, like, what the fuck?
That's literally it.
That's literally the plot of that movie, from what I understand.
Given a major spoiler over here to whoever.
No, there's no reason to spoil that movie, because you should never, no human being should have to watch that movie.
Yeah. Anyway, lots of love to you too, Kunav, for liking our show or whatever. Anyway, Wesley Maestri with another super chat says, where do you rank Omarzai among all-rounders in ODI cricket? I feel he's underrated and gets into every team in 50-over cricket. Thoughts? Doesn't get into India, probably gets into every other team.
Yeah,
I take him over Mulder, right?
Ooh, that's
take
an
Mulder
interesting
over
one.
Omarzai?
They're very high on Mulder. Like,
Yeah, they are. But
they compare him to
Omarzai
Callis.
Omarzai has gotten or has more performances under his belt, and he's younger than Mulder. I know he doesn't quite have the same face card because Mulder seems like he came from heaven, right? But I don't know. I'd take Omarzai over Mulder.
Look, I think Omarzai has an incredibly high ceiling, but I don't know if he's there at that stage to have him quite up. He's not, you know, right at the moment. But look, he's probably in the top 5. There aren't that many high quality well, certainly if you look at people who are fit anyway, there aren't that many high quality.
If you're talking about seam bowling all-rounders here, Wesley, because I could name some spin bowling all-rounders who are far better than Omarzai. I mean, India have got a couple. So, I mean, that's a different question, I guess. Amandeep Dhanota, with a very generous super chat, says only bright thing from England or from this game is that they don't have to travel to Dubai anymore. Yep, I mean,
England players really like Dubai, by the way. They
lots of golf.
Yeah, they will quite often, when they're in India or Sri Lanka, will head back to Dubai. I'm like, haven't you been punished enough by playing poor cricket before having to go to Dubai? I hate Dubai. I'm not a Dubai guy, but
I'm not a
they love it.
fan either. Yeah. I like the fact that you've got excursions, but when you're roaming around Dubai, it's just like if Pakistan was 7-star. That's the feeling that I get, right?
Well,
like,
do you know what I like? I do like the fact that in one small area you have like every popular fast food place in the, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can go from Wendy's to Shake Shack to, you know, and I do actually enjoy that, because even in America they're spaced out, right? And suddenly they're just, you've got Tim Hortons on one corner, right? You've got Shake Shack on the other corner, and then you go around to Wendy's. Like, so I'm all on the side of that. But yeah, overall, I hate Dubai. I don't know how we ended up here. See, the more we talk, the more super chats that come in.
I cannot remember another show. This is a wagon wheel at this point. It's not even a Good Areas Live anymore. Anyway, Subway Surfer asks, who's the Jar Jar Binks of cricket commentary? Is it Athar Ali Khan?
Oh, that seems unfair. The Jar Jar Binks. I would have thought early on it was Brett Lee. But to be fair to Brett Lee, I know he's been doing it a long time, but he has got a lot better of recent times. There must be like...
Well, Sohail?
I was thinking Greg Chappell. Greg Chappell was one that like just never worked, did it? But wouldn't it have to be someone like who was more upbeat? Like, because the thing with Jar Jar Binks was he was kind of pleasant and crap. So I know. We have to stop talking.
It's a tough one. Anyway, Jack now asks, Sam Curran bowled really well in the 2022 T20 World Cup, didn't he? What happened to him after that? Oh my God, the amount of times we've had the super chat in different shows. He says, I know this is ODIs, but he's been bad in T20s too.
He's been bad everywhere. I think he was lucky in that World Cup, and I think he was smart in that World Cup. But he doesn't swing the ball anymore, and I don't know what his main weapon is with the white ball when he bowls it. So yeah, I can't do it again.
Shrivats Agaram with the latest super chat says, time to get rid of Livingston and Wood. It's okay to lose, but I'd rather see England losing. Brooding, new blood.
I think he means blooding.
Blooding,
just a typo,
blooding
isn't
new
it?
blood. Than to stick to players who are simply not cut out, and he's had enough, or these players have had enough opportunities, according to him. I think everyone's being overcritical of Liam Livingston. I know he has issues, but I'd still take him. I think he's a poor man's Glenn Phillips.
Aren't we all? Look, you don't blood new players at a Champions Trophy. You pick the team you think is going to give you the biggest chance. And they went in with a theory, and it didn't work. We're allowed to have a go at that. But Mark Wood, to be fair, was injured by the end of this game and could barely walk. So I don't know how he's the issue here.
Yeah. Okay, so just to close off the show, Jarrod, I have a super chat for you, right? there are two Afghan superstars who haven't really turned up in this Champions Trophy. Rahmanullah Gurbaz with the bat, who's done well for them in the past and can be explosive up top. And Rashid Khan, he hasn't really had a good tournament either. And he has an issue in 50 over ODI tournaments, right? He's averaging like 50 with the ball. Is this a good thing for Afghanistan heading into the Australia game because, law of averages? Or does this not bode well for them?
I think enough players are in good form that it's not the end of the world. Rashid Khan, didn't he get better towards the back end of the ODI World Cup? He seems to start major ICC events really poorly and then sort of gets himself into it. I think he gets in his own head a little bit. He's just got to relax. Gurbaz will probably have, if they make it to the semis, I would say he's a 50% chance of having one good knock from here on in, right? So I wouldn't be too worried about that.
And Gurbaz also has a terrific conversion rate. He has 8 tons in ODI cricket and 650s. So that's solid. And Rashid Khan, I feel like he's bowling a touch too quick on these surfaces. But he's always been that sort of bowler, right? He's like an Afridi-esque wrist spinner. So let's see. I'm really hoping to see some performances from them. And I don't know, man. Especially with the crowd that is very pro-Afghan, of course, with all of the refugees. We've seen it in both the games. I feel like they'll be a 12th man versus Australia as well. And I'm getting this weird feeling in my stomach where I feel like they'll beat Australia.
Emotionally? They beat them in the T20 World Cup, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So they won't be afraid of them. They won't be afraid of this Australian team. My God. No one goes into any game going, oh my God, we've got to go up against Aaron Hardy and Ben Dwarshius.
All right, so give me your 2 teams which you think will qualify from Group B.
I don't know because you know the maths better than me. The 2 best teams, and I've said this from the start, are South Africa and Afghanistan. But I now don't know the maths, so because of the washout, I'm behind the 8 ball on that.
My head is saying South Africa, Australia. My mind is saying South Africa, Australia. But I don't know. My heart has started to say South Africa, Afghanistan. Let's see.
What's your groin saying?
Not England. But anyway, that wraps up this episode of Good Areas Live. So thank you to all of you guys in the comment section and for the 10 billion super chats that you gave us. This literally, I think we've been taking super chats from minute 20 and we're in minute 72 now. No joke. Good. That's how it's been.
We didn't have a lot of notes, so it's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I literally got out of the shower. But anyway, just a quick reminder, you guys can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage, and that can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the work that we do as part of this team, whether it be written content, podcasts, or videos. We'll be back soon enough. There's a quick pick scheduled, and lots of other fun stuff related to the Champions Trophy is on its way onto your screens. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Enjoy yourselves, and that's it from us. Goodbye.
As an international cricket journalist for 10 years, I tell you what, I have got a collection of international SIM cards that I will never truly understand. Now I find there is a company called Selly who gives you an eSIM, and it makes it all so much easier. So if you're planning on making any trips, download your Selly eSIM app, and you can also get a 15% discount if you say Good Areas, all one word, at checkout. Travel like a pro with your Selly eSIM today.